Right now, there are horror games with lighting, detail, and atmosphere so good, they feel like they shouldn't exist in real-time gameplay. From photorealistic body cam style nightmares to cinematic worlds built with an insane environmental detail. Hey, my name is CB, and these are 15 of the most visually striking horror games that you can play right now. MADiSON is a first-person psychological horror game where you wake up trapped inside a dark, abandoned house with no clear explanation of how you got there. At the center of the game is a Polaroid camera. You use it to take photos of your environment, but it's not just for documenting what's around you. The camera reveals hidden details, changes in the world, and things that aren't visible in real time. What you capture often becomes more real than what you can actually see. As you explore deeper into the house, the environment begins to shift in subtle but disturbing ways. Rooms change when you're not looking, doors disappear and reappear, objects move without explanation, the house feels alive like it's reacting to your presence. You start uncovering fragments of a violent history tied to the house, piecing together what happened through photographs, notes, and strange supernatural events. But the more you learn, the less stable everything becomes. There's also something inside the house with you. You don't always see it directly, but you feel it watching, following, and influencing the environment around you. It becomes harder to tell what's real, what's memory, and what is being created by the camera itself. As the game progresses, the psychological tension builds and the house becomes less of a location and more of a living trap. Every step forward pushes you deeper into something that doesn't want to let you leave. MADiSON is ultimately about perception, fear, and losing trust in what you see. Especially when your only tool for understanding reality might be the thing that is distorting it. Puzzles become more psychological than logical. It's not just about finding keys or unlocking doors, it's about understanding how the house is changing and how your camera affects what is happening around you. Some areas feel repeated, but slightly wrong each time. Like a memory that's been altered, familiar rooms return with subtle differences that make you question whether you've been there before or if the house is recreating them for you. The sound design also plays a major role, with distant knocks, sudden creaks, and moments of silence that feel heavier than any noise. It constantly keeps you on edge, never letting you fully relax or predict what's coming next. At number 14, we have Still Wakes the Deep. It's a first-person narrative horror game set in 1975 aboard a remote oil rig in the North Sea. Play as an offshore worker trapped on the Barradia after a catastrophic event destroys the structure and cuts off all communication and escape routes. The storm outside is violent and the rig itself begins to collapse under extreme conditions. As you explore the damaged facility, you're forced to navigate flooding corridors, broken infrastructure, and unstable walkways while trying to survive. There are no weapons or combat systems. You can only run, hide, and avoid whatever is stalking the crew. Something unknown has come aboard the rig. It spreads through the structure, transforming both the environment and the people still trapped inside. As you move deeper through the oil rig, the situation becomes increasingly dangerous and unpredictable. At number 13, we have Visage, a first-person psychological horror game set inside a large, isolated house with a deeply disturbing history. You explore the home as strange and unexplainable events begin to unfold around you. Lights flicker, objects move on their own, and familiar rooms begin to feel unfamiliar and unsafe. The house constantly shifts in subtle but unsettling ways, making it difficult to trust what you're seeing. As you progress, you uncover fragments of past tragedies tied to the people who once lived there. Each story reveals a different psychological horror scenario, all connected to the same location. The game has no traditional combat. Instead, it focuses on exploration, atmosphere, and survival against unseen forces that grow stronger the deeper you go inside the house. What makes Visage stand out is how it builds tension through silence, sound, and environmental changes, creating a constant feeling that something is nearby, even when nothing is visible. Ultimately, it's a slow, oppressive descent into a house that feels alive and determined to keep you inside. As you explore further, the house begins to react more directly to your presence. Hallways feel longer than they should, doors that were open moments ago are suddenly shut, and entire sections of the home seem to shift when you're not looking. The game's stories each introduce different characters and tragedies, but they all take place within the same environment. slowly revealing that the house itself is the common thread behind everything that has happened. Audio plays a major role in building tension with distant footsteps, unexplained knocks, and ambient sounds that suggest movement just out of sight. These moments are often more unsettling than anything that you actually see. As the psychological pressure increases, the line between hallucination and reality starts to break down, leaving you unsure whether events you're experiencing are supernatural or not. At number 12, we had Ad Infinitum. It's a first-person psychological horror game set during and after World War I, where you play as a German soldier haunted by both the trauma of the trenches and the memories of home. The story shifts between two realities, the decaying trenches of the Western Front and an abandoned family estate that feels frozen in time. In both places, something unnatural begins to emerge, blending war trauma with psychological horror. In the trenches, you navigate destroyed landscapes filled with barbed wire, corpses, and constant tension from unseen threats. Survival depends on stealth and awareness, as danger can appear suddenly and without warning. Back at the family home, the environment becomes increasingly surreal. Rooms shift, doors lead to impossible places, and unsettling creatures begin to manifest, tied to guilt, memory, and unresolved trauma. The game focuses heavily on exploration and puzzle solving, but also on avoiding the entities that stalk both realities. These creatures are symbolic, representing fear, grief, and psychological breakdown rather than traditional physical enemies. As the story unfolds, the connection between the war and the home becomes clearer, revealing that the horrors you experience are not confined to the battlefield, but are deeply rooted in the mind. Ad Infinitum is ultimately about trauma, memory, and the way war follows you long after you've left the battlefield. As you progress, the creatures you encounter become more aggressive and unpredictable, often reacting to sound, movement, or your proximity. Each encounter forces you carefully to navigate or hide, as direct confrontation is not an option. At number 11, we have At Dead of Night. It's a first-person horror game that blends live-action footage with an in-engine exploration to create a unique FMV experience. You play as a student who checks into a remote seaside hotel only to discover that it is haunted by a violent and unpredictable presence. The hotel itself becomes the main setting, with each room holding clues, memories, and fragments of past events. The game combines real-time exploration with live-action character interactions. Use a flashlight and a mobile phone as your primary tools, allowing you to investigate the hotel, talk to its remaining occupants, and uncover what happened there. At the center of the story is a dangerous entity that roams the hotel. It can appear at any time, tracking you through corridors, rooms, and stairwells. When it does, survival depends on hiding, running, and making quick decisions under pressure. As you explore deeper, you begin piecing together the hotel's history and the tragic events tied to its former guests. The more you learn, the more the entity's behavior becomes aggressive and unpredictable. The game's presentation blends filmed live action performances with interactive gameplay, creating a grounded but unsettling sense of realism as you move through the hotel. Ultimately, At Dead of Night is about uncovering a violent history trapped inside of a building that never fully let go of its past. As you gather more information from recordings and conversations, you start to understand the identity and motives of the entity haunting the hotel. Each clue reveals more about the events that led to its presence and why it remains tied to the building. At number 10, we have Layers of Fear. It's a first-person psychological horror game where you explore a constant shifting mansion filled with art, memories, and hallucinations tied to a disturbed painter. You play as the artist, returning to a large Victorian-style house where reality begins to break down as you move through it. Rooms change when you turn away, hallways reconfigure themselves, and paintings become increasingly disturbing as you progress. The house itself acts as both setting and reflection of the protagonist's mental state. As you explore, you uncover fragments of a troubled past involving obsession, loss, and a descent into madness, revealed through environmental storytelling and hidden notes. Oh shit. At number 9, we have Devotion. It's a first-person psychological horror game set inside a Taiwanese apartment complex in the 1980s, to where you explore the home of a family whose life slowly unravels over time. As you move through the apartment, the environment changes to reflect different periods, memories, and emotional states. Rooms shift, objects appear and disappear, and the space begins to feel less like a normal home and more like a representation of the family's inner struggles. The story focuses on the relationship between the family members, gradually revealing themes of pressure, belief, and the consequences of decisions made under desperation. These elements are shown through environmental details, symbolic imagery, and subtle changes in the surroundings. There is no combat. The gameplay centers on exploration and piecing together the narrative by observing objects, reading notes, and experiencing events as they unfold within the space. As you progress, the atmosphere becomes more surreal and unsettling. Religious symbolism and cultural elements are woven into the environment, adding layers of meaning to what you see and experience. The apartment in itself transforms into something more abstract, reflecting guilt, fear, and emotional breakdown rather than a fixed physical location. At number 8, we have Observer, System Redux. It's a first-person cyberpunk horror game set in a dystopian future where you play as a neural detective known as an observer. Using advanced technology, you're able to hack directly into people's minds to investigate their crimes. These digital environments are unstable and often reflect the fears, memories, and trauma of the individuals you're examining. The hacked mind sequences are where the horror intensifies with distorted visuals, shifting environments, and unpredictable events that make it difficult to stay grounded. At number 7, we have Infliction. It's a first-person psychological horror game set inside a suburban house where you uncover the story of a broken family through exploration and environmental clues. You move through the home searching for notes, recordings, and objects that reveal what happened there, slowly piecing together a timeline of events tied to violence, guilt, and loss. The house itself becomes increasingly unstable as you progress. Rooms change subtly, lights flicker, and familiar spaces begin to feel unsafe. The environment reacts to your presence, creating a constant sense of tension. There is no combat. Instead, you must avoid a hostile entity that stalks the house. When it appears, survival depends on hiding, staying quiet, and using light carefully, as certain mechanics allow you to temporarily protect yourself or push it back. As the story unfolds, the connection between the house and the events that took place inside becomes clearer, with the environment reflecting the emotional weight of what happened. The game relies heavily on sound design and atmosphere, using silence, distant noises, and sudden disturbances. At number 6 is Amnesia, The Bunker. It's a first-person survival horror game set in World War I bunker, where you play as a French soldier trapped underground with something hunting you. The bunker is a semi-open environment that you can explore freely, with multiple paths, locked areas, and limited resources scattered throughout. Your main goal is to find a way out while managing the dangers inside. There are no scripted encounters. Instead, a single unpredictable creature roams the bunker, reacting to sound, movement, and light. It can appear at any time, forcing you to adapt and stay alert. A central mechanic is the generator, which powers the bunker's lights. Fuel is limited, and when the lights go out, the creature becomes more active, turning darkness into a constant threat that you have to manage. You can use tools like a revolver, grenades, and other items, but resources are scarce, so every decision matters. Direct confrontation is risky, and survival often depends on avoiding danger rather than fighting it. The game emphasizes player choices and tension, with systems that allow multiple ways to solve problems and progress through the environment. At number 5, we have The Beast Inside. It's a first-person horror game that blends psychological tension with survival elements set across 2 different time periods. You play as Adam, a CIA cryptanalyst who moves to a remote house in the countryside to work in isolation. While searching the property, he discovers a hidden diary that begins to reveal a second story from the 19th century. The game shifts between these 2 timelines, with each one offering different environments, mechanics, and perspectives. As both stories progress, the connection between them becomes increasingly clear. In present day, you explore the house and surrounding areas, solving puzzles and uncovering clues tied to Adam's investigation. In the past, you experience more direct horror elements, including stealth and encounters with dangerous threats. The environments are detailed and grounded, ranging from quiet forests and abandoned homes to darker, more confined interior spaces that become increasingly hostile. As the story unfolds, both timelines begin to reflect similar themes of fear, violence, and psychological breakdown, with events in one timeline influencing the other. The Beast Inside combines narrative-driven exploration with moments of survival horror, creating an experience that moves between investigation and direct danger as the mystery develops. Number 4, we have Dark Mass. It's a horror game set in an isolated underwater environment where you explore a submerged structure that feels completely cut off from the surface world. You play as someone investigating or trapped within this deep sea location where visibility is limited, pressure is constant, and every corridor feels unstable and unfamiliar. The environment is dark, claustrophobic, and heavily reliant on lighting and sound to create tension. As you move through the structure, you uncover signs that something went wrong here. Equipment is damaged, areas are abandoned, and there are traces of previous activity that suggest you are not alone here. The deeper you go, the more distorted the environment becomes. Lights flicker, water leaks into sealed spaces, and movement around you becomes harder to track, making it difficult to tell what is real and what is threat. There is no clear safety anywhere inside the facility, and exploration is constantly interrupted by the feeling that something is moving just beyond your field of view. At number 3, we have The Shore. It's a first-person Lovecraftian horror game where you play as Andrew, a man searching for his missing daughter on a mysterious, forbidden island. The game begins on a desolate shoreline filled with strange rock formations and unnatural silence. As you move deeper inland, the environment becomes increasingly surreal, blending coastal landscapes with ancient, otherworldly architecture. You explore the island to uncover what happened, following clues left behind while trying to survive encounters with unknown entities inspired by cosmic horror. These creatures are not fully understood, often appearing suddenly and distorting the environment around them. The experience is heavily focused on atmosphere, exploration, and visual storytelling, with each area revealing more about the island's dark history and the forces that inhabit it. At number 2 is Chernobylite. It's the first-person horror game set in Chernobyl's exclusion zone, where you play as a former physicist returning to the area decades after the disaster in search of your missing fiancé. The zone is an open, hostile environment filled with radiation, military patrols, hostile survivors, and unnatural phenomena caused by a mysterious substance known as Chernobylite. Exploration takes place across forests, abandoned buildings, and heavily contaminated industrial zones. Each day you plan missions from a hidden base of operations, managing resources, crafting equipment, and deciding which companions to bring with you. Every choice affects your team's survival and how the story unfolds. On the ground, gameplay shifts between stealth, combat, and survival. You must avoid detection, engage enemies when necessary, and manage radiation exposure while scavenging for supplies. As the story progresses, the line between reality and hallucination begins to blur. Strange events occur that challenge your understanding of what is happening inside the zone, suggesting something unnatural is influencing everything around you. Chernobylite combines survival mechanics, base management, and psychological horror, creating a tense experience where both the environment and your decisions determine how the story ends.
Or maybe the point is...
And finally, at number 1 is Alan Wake 2. It's a third-person psychological horror game where you follow two interconnected stories: an FBI agent investigating ritualistic murders, and a writer trapped in a nightmarish dimension shaped by his own stories. The game takes place between two worlds. In the real world, you explore dark, rain-soaked environments as Agent Saga Anderson, investigating a series of brutal killings in the Pacific Northwest. Evidence, clues, and profiling are used to piece together what is happening. In the other world, Alan Wake is trapped in a shifting, surreal version of reality known as the Dark Place. Here, writing itself can change the environment, allowing him to reshape scenes and attempt to escape the nightmare he's stuck in. The environments are highly detailed and cinematic, ranging from dense forests and small towns to abstract reality-bending locations filled with shifting lighting and distorted architecture. Combat focuses on survival using limited resources like weapons, light sources, and careful positioning to deal with hostile entities known as Taken. As both stories unfold, they begin to overlap, revealing a deeper connection between the murders, the Dark Place, and the influence of a force that bends reality through narrative itself. Alan Wake 2 is a story-driven horror experience about identity, creation, and the terrifying power of stories that refuse to end. And that's what makes modern horror games so insane right now. Not just the stories and not just the gameplay. From abandoned houses that feel like they're alive to entire worlds built around psychological breakdown, isolation, and fear. And that's all I have for you guys today. If you enjoyed the video, please like, subscribe, comment. Let me know if there's any other games you want me to check out and review, and maybe you'll see it on the next one. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and take care.